Have you ever felt like you were invisible, even when you are surrounded by people who are supposed to love you and cherish? Picture the scene. A nice night. You go to the Facebook, and all of a sudden, a flurry of photos from a party and a family, it invades your computer screen. Pictures for the laughs, hugs, people dancing and celebrating together. And there you have it, the sense that something is wrong and begin to grow inside of you. It's as if the pain is invisible to establish itself in your chest, a pain that can't be seen, but if it hurts you deeply. You realize that you have, at that point, no one had remembered to invite you. You've always been right there, helping, supporting, and sharing the most important moments. Suddenly, he turned around. The figure is absent. There is a presence that no one cared to call. And it is this sense of emptiness, of exclusion, that is, for any reason, you are no longer a part of that circle, even though a part of her own story. Stay with me until the very end, because that's all you're going to find out now. You will be surprised. The pain's quiet, the feeling of being on the edge, and it is not just a matter of neglect or malicious intent, and often it carries a weight that is more important. The racism is veiled, hiding behind the excuses and soft, and the words seem innocent, but they hurt the bottom. And it's even more difficult to accept is that often people who suffer with this exclusion, it is someone who has always been there, it has always given his best, and tried to show that love and unity are supposed to be stronger than any of the prejudices in disguise. You can't imagine how a person might feel when they realize that even in his own family and their existence is not acknowledged or appreciated. This is the history that we are going to tell you. You have my heart. A story of pain, resilience, and hope, to reflect the nuance of the exclusion that is often overlooked, but it makes a deep in my soul. From here, you'll find out that it is not isolated, and that she was a part of something bigger than themselves, and that deserves to be heard and discussed. Then, continue on to me, because what's coming next is going to open your eyes to the reality that some people prefer to hide it. If you can identify with this story so far, I want to invite you to think about it a little bit more about what she has awakened in you. You may be reminded of the moments that have similar or even the same people that have been through similar experiences. Share your own stories, views, opinions, or feelings. You can strengthen that connection is what we are building here. After all, it is your participation is what makes this channel grow and to reach more people with this type of content and brings to the fore discussions on what really matters. If this topic makes no sense to you, leave it here in the comments, what you touched, what made you think of, or even the questions that have arisen along the way. Like the video to help spread this message by showing that it deserves to be shared and discussed. And if you want to continue with this kind of content, which search for and open the eyes, and the promotion of reflection, please subscribe to the channel, so you can stay up to date with everything that's coming, are participating in a community that appreciates the value of real-life stories, empathy, and grow together. His presence makes all the difference. Let's go together on this journey of discovery and transformation. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the truth. Hide the often hidden away, just the thing you're least expecting it. It is as if a veil that prevents us from seeing beyond the surface, and a layer of self-deception that causes us to believe that all is not as it seems. And at this point, the real question is, why is it that we prefer to keep that ignorance is comfortable, even though we know that it is limited? The answer to this lies in our nature, our need for security, stability, and control. It is easier to accept a version of reality in the face of the complexities of what it actually brings. Over the course of my career, I've noticed that a lot of times, the biggest obstacle to personal growth, it is not outside, but within us. The decisions we make, the beliefs that we have cultivated, and the fears that feed it, all of it shapes our perceptions and consequently on our journey. And then, when they are confronted with the truth that is hidden, the one that challenges you to our most profound convictions, many people feel a combination of fear and resistance. It's like opening a present, and at the same time, it promises to important revelations, it also brings a dose of discomfort. But it is precisely because of this discomfort is the key to true transformation. From the moment we begin to question what we have been taught, to explore the behind the scenes of the narrative that surrounds us, it all begins to make sense of it in a different way. We come to understand that life isn't a straight line or a script ready to go, but it's a journey of discovery set. With each revelation, we examine the impact of our decisions on, for example, reveals a new layer of possibilities and opportunities for change. Thus, what seemed to be in limitation that it is a growth opportunity, a chance to rewrite our story with authenticity and purpose. And at this point, it is not only to understand the truth that is hidden, but to internalize that we are the protagonists of this story. Every choice, every thought, every action, influences, and the impact it can have on the world around us. It's a matter of mindset, to make room for a transformation of the genuine, a change from the inside to the outside. When we begin to look beyond the surface to understand the between the lines of what seemed to be an obstacle becomes an opportunity for reflection and deep learning. And in the process, we can begin to understand that the journey is not only about achieving the goals of the outside, but when you develop a connection that's more true to who we really are. As you explore this new approach, we have found that many of our limitations are, in fact, the buildings of mind. It's the fear of failure or being judged, a lot of times. It's just an illusion created by the mind that you don't want to get out of your comfort zone. And when you understand it, you can choose to demystify these beliefs and to make room for a real freedom. It is a movement of self-knowledge, which leads us to question everything we have been taught, all the things that we have learned in the course of a lifetime, and it is often only serves to keep us stuck in a story that does not represent anymore. For this reason, the search for the truth hidden, it is a journey of discovery that takes courage and a willingness to change. It is not an easy path, but it is one that is really worth the effort because it leads to a higher conscious level where they can make choices that are more aligned with who you really are. And, in so doing, we can begin to understand that the most profound impact is that what's going on inside of us, in our way of thinking, our way of perceiving the world. After all, it is the real change starts from the inside out, and every step in that direction, it's an opportunity to tell a better version of yourself. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the transformation of what really matters to you is the one that takes place in our minds, in our lives." Many times we look for changes in the external changes in the routine of bad habits, even in appearance, but they have forgotten that the real impact comes from a change in its internal structure. It's like a seed that needs to be done with care, patience, and, above all, with a clear understanding of who you are and what you really want. When we first started to explore this journey of self-discovery, we realized that many of our daily decisions are influenced by the beliefs held by a mindset that has been built up over the course of the year, and often without notice. These beliefs can be barriers, silent, unseen, that shape our behavior, our choices, and therefore our results. So the first step is just that, to identify those ways of thinking that limit us, to question his origins, and the courage to replace them with new insights that are in line with what we would wish for the truth. This is a change of mentality. It works like a domino effect. When we got to change our way of perceiving life, adding value to our full potential, we began to see possibilities where we have seen the obstacles. It's like opening a window, which had been closed for years, and letting go in a new light, more clear, more real. And this led, in turn, light the way for a more assertive decisions. Each victory, both are reflected in the results, and then begins to rise, a new version of ourselves, one that is stronger, more secure, more in line with our core values. But of course, the journey is not linear or simple. It is a process of discovery, and the constant must confront hidden truths, and to allow yourself to make mistakes, to learn, to start all over again. And it is during this time that the revelations of the most significant appear to those who undermine our comfort zone. It makes us question everything you thought you knew. It is at this point that a lot of people give up because of fear or because of a lack of resistance is felt. Others, however, choose to move forward because they understand that the real power lies in the ability to make their own story, to rewrite the story it tells about itself. The great thing is that the transformation is not a single act or a decision on points. It is a unique design and a daily practice of autocompaction, patience, and discipline. Each and every choice we make, every thought of what you eat, has the potential to strengthen or weaken this new way of understanding what we're teaching. And, in the course of time, these small adjustments will begin to consolidate, creating a new foundation for all of the things that we believe to be possible. This is a genuine internal revolution, which has a direct impact on our self-esteem and our self-confidence, and the way we face the challenges of everyday life. And it is precisely at this point that the behind the scenes of our transformation are revealed. On the back of each and every change is visible. It is a story of courage, of endurance, of the choices. And a lot of the time, this history is marked by moments of doubt and of fear that need to be addressed with the same determination with which one is faced with a storm. Because deep down, that it is of the very essence of a journey of transformation, to understand that the internal barriers are the most difficult to overcome, but it's also the most rewarding, because they define who we are, in fact. I now want to go more in depth on this subject. It is because of this understanding that change happens from the inside out and takes us to a consideration of the impact our decisions have on the way. Every decision we make is like a seed planted in the soil of our minds, and what we have planted there is a collection that will have you in the future. The more conscious we are of it, the more aligned we are with us, the stronger we will be for the face of adversity, and the more clear it will be our goal. After all, it is the real transformation is to go on a journey of self-discovery, where you've learned to discover your limits and expanding them out, and be confident that it's the secret lies in our ability to change our own history. It's a decision every single time. And, in this way, it is important to remember that we are not alone. Every experience, every reflection, every insight you've gained is a part of a larger movement of change, which involves not only our actions, but also to our feelings, our dreams, and our connections to the world around us. When we align with these elements in place, the journey of transformation to become more mild, more real, and more powerful. And in the process, we have found that the most profound impact is that what's going on inside of us changes in our way of looking at life, and consequently to influence you to everything that we've built around us. To the end of our story, I want you to imagine your own story as a narrative that can be overridden at any time, as long as you have the courage to look within and to recognize their hidden truths and to decide, in fact, that you want to improve. Because at the end of the day, the greatest change is the one which is going on in your mind, in its essence, and that is reflected in a definitive way in your life's journey. And so each and every step taken in the direction of your most authentic self, this is a victory that echoed through the whole of its existence, had a positive impact on not only you, but also to the people who have been lucky enough to walk by his side. I now want to go more in depth on this topic because understanding this change in mindset is how to untangle a look behind the scenes of the revolution on the inside. Many times we look for changes in the external improvements to the routine and habits, but you have forgotten that the core of this evolution in the way we think, our beliefs, the more ingrained it is in our ability to see beyond the obvious. It is this shift in perspective makes all the difference, because it acts as a catalyst in the invisible, capable of turning obstacles into opportunities and questions to understand. And when you think about it, we realize that the journey of true transformation is not a straight line, but it's a trail full of twists and turns, the ups and the downs, where every decision you make shapes the core of the form. When we begin to question what we accept as truth, and we made room for a new understanding of ourselves, the world around us, and the chance seemed to be moving. This is the stage of self-discovery, is a revelation silent, a fact hidden. That is, many times, it's so close to you that you don't even realize. That's what's important, to revisit our own limiting beliefs, the ones that made us believe that we were not able to, or that some dreams, they were just fantasies. When we are able to identify these patterns, and then, with the courage to challenge each and every one of them, we take a decisive step on the road to freedom, is to be who you really are. However, this transformation does not happen overnight. It's a conscious decision to change, and a genuine desire to disconnect from the stories that we took on for years. And when you do that, you start to realize that the impact of this mindset is reflected in even the small efforts day-to-day life, such as breathing more deeply in the face of difficulties, and a stance that is more secure in the face of new opportunities, or even just a different way of relating to the people around you. Every choice that is aligned with this vision, it is like a seed planted in our souls, which, over time, flowers in the self-confidence, resilience, and authenticity. This process of the transformation of the interior also shows behind the scenes of our true power. We find that the power switch is not on the external conditions are favorable or the luck, but the ability to adjust our way of thinking and of creating a new narrative in the built-in drives, and in the end, even in the face of adversity. And it is this invisible force that enables us to meet any of the above scenarios, because in essence, it all depends on what you believe to be possible. When we are aligned with the truth within, we can begin to understand what the limitations were, the stories that we tell ourselves, and who, with a mindset and a renovated, we can overcome any limitation imposed by fear or confusion. And then, when you dive deeper into this realm of possibilities, it becomes clear that the true transformation involves a shift of perspective on what it means to success, happiness, and fulfillment. Too often, we carry a misleading than it is to live a full life, while believing that it depends on many factors such as, or for material gain. But, in fact, that it really affects our day is our attitude to life and our ability to maintain a growth mindset, learn from the challenges, and also to ensure that each step is taken with gratitude. This is a change of paradigm. It is like a key which unlocks a whole new dimension of potential, a place where everything that once seemed impossible becomes just a matter of time and persistence. And it is at this point that we begin to understand the importance of taking care of ourselves, to nurture positive thoughts, to surround yourself with influences that increases one's energy, and to keep open-minded to the possibilities. To do this, we're creating a strong foundation for a lasting change. It doesn't depend on circumstances, time-sensitive, but is a great change in our lives. For each reflection, and each made a conscious decision to seek out the best in us, it is like a bridge that takes us to a more authentic, more strong, and more in tune with who you really are. And when you realize this connection, it should be clear that the real transformation is an ongoing process, a journey that requires commitment, courage, and above all, a willingness to learn and grow each and every day. Now, I want you to think about this very carefully. How does this mindset, it can influence the decisions you make, the more simple, the ones that seem small, but they are, in fact, the building throughout the story. How do you view your limitations, and what you can do to make them a point of departure for a new phase? These questions are essential to understand that the greatest revolution that happens from the inside to the outside, and that every step in that direction, this is a powerful statement of its effective potential. So, here's a thought. What does this change in perspective will make you? He comments that, "It makes no sense to me. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, because a lot of the time, which really makes a person not only the change in the surface, but on the way she sees the world around her. And this change in perspective, this is the turn of the key. It's like a magnifying glass with which it reveals the details before seen, nuances that go unnoticed in daily life. When we begin to to understand that our decisions are rooted in a vision of the world, and everything gets a whole new dimension. This is a journey of discovery, one that involves more than just the actions of the conscious. It's an immersive behind the scenes of your own mind, and what is often hidden under layers of bad habits, limiting beliefs, and fears, not to themselves. Imagine for a moment that such a transformation is like opening a window in an old house filled with dust and spider webs. All of a sudden, the air comes with a groundbreaking, and what seemed to be a dark and confused begins to make the colors more vivid. This new perspective does not come from the day to the night. The house is built by a small revelation and the provision of a continuous questioning of what seemed to be an absolute. It is as if, behind every decision to be mistaken, there's a truth to hide, to a distorted view of what needs to be adjusted so that the impact of our actions will be positive, in line with what we truly wish to achieve. And then, when you immerse yourself in these behind the scenes in the mind, we see that in the limit, they are often the stories that we tell ourselves. The stories seem to be true, but in essence, they are the only interpretations. These interpretations are shaping our emotions, our actions, and consequently of our lives. So, the key to growth is to demystify these stories, and to understand where does it come from and why do we insist on them, even though I knew that would keep us from moving forward. The path to this change of mentality, and it passes through a deconstruction of the delicate situation, which calls for courage, patience, and a genuine openness to self-discovery. To the extent that you're going to discover those secrets, you start to realize that a lot of our decision-making, the most significant, are closely connected with our deepest beliefs. It is they who guide us, often unconsciously, and it can boost the curb our progress. When we are able to identify these beliefs, we can rewrite them, set them so that they will become allies in the journey of transformation. This is where the real change begins to gain traction, because it is no longer something foreign, and turns out to be a conquest, built a new way of interpreting the world, and especially to see to us. This understanding leads us to a crucial point, to be accountable for our choices. And here, in the revelation, the more powerful it is to see that no matter what external factors we can influence, the freedom of choice is what really makes it stand out. This freedom, however, is only full when you have clarity about one's own truths, when we challenge the lies we tell for many years. It is a journey of self-discovery, which is about having the courage to take on the many times that we would prefer to ignore them, because they accept that the truth is hidden. It's scary, but also liberating. When we were able to make this move as accepted, it changes everything. Life is starting to be seen in a different way, more and more clearly, and what seemed to be an insurmountable obstacle becomes an opportunity for growth. And in this transformation process, it is clear that the impact is not only in the outward action, but also in our way of thinking and how we interpret the events, the decisions we make based on our view of the world. So, the real change is a revolution in the internal reconstruction of the concepts that, once set, will reverberate in all areas of your life. This day does not have a single root. It is made up of the findings of continuous moments of insight, and above all, a provision in order to progress, even when the way seems unclear or challenging. And so, as I reflect back on all of this, there is the question, how many times have you ever stopped to look for a chance to be in the grip of a long-held belief? The vision is limited to what has been fueled by the experiences of the past. How do these revelations of the inner turn of the impact that you have on your own life and the lives of those around you? There are many questions, I know, but this is just the point. The more deep you are diving into the very essence, the clearer it becomes that real change starts from the inside out. And, in the process, every detail, every insight, every decision you make with a conscience, going to the construction of a new narrative, a story of transformation, which depends only on one thing, and that it is willing to see beyond the obvious. After all, every great journey begins with a simple to wake up to a new truth, and the truth, once discovered, never turns off. I now want to go more in depth on this subject, for it is precisely at this time of the wake-up call that we begin to understand how our choices shape our reality in which we live, many times without our realization. The true transformation doesn't happen by chance. It comes from a conscious decision to look beyond the surface and question patterns in the old and make room for a new perspective. It is as if, for a long time, we were stuck in a kind of haze, where everything seems to be confusing and hard to understand. But when you have decided to seek clarity, and when we allow ourselves to explore all the layers, the innermost of our being, it all starts to make sense. In the process, we found out that it actually influences our actions and results that are not only the external circumstances, but, above all, to our way of thinking and the way we interpret the world around us. Many of the times, the load-limiting beliefs that act as barriers, invisible, undermining many of our dreams, and by holding to a routine that, while comfortable, it does not lead to the growth of the real. This kind of faith is often inherited or are formed during times of vulnerability, which acts as a sort of filter that distorts our perception of reality, thus preventing us from seeing the possibilities beyond what it is right away. A great eye-opener, however, is that we can reschedule for this story. So, as a writer who writes a story, worry, we all have the power to change the direction of our internal script. And that change begins with a decision by a simple but powerful take on the responsibility to change our thoughts and therefore our actions. When we do that, we looked at the world in a new light, a light that reveals opportunities where before there were only obstacles. It is at this point that the truth is hidden is revealed. Our greatest strength lies in the ability to choose our thoughts, to nurture a growth mindset, and to understand that every challenge is an opportunity in disguise. For each transformation, there is always a journey of self-discovery. It is on this path that we find our own set of limitations, but also to our full potential in more private. And when you accept that there is a duality, we begin to understand the impact of our decision-making. It is not something external, but it is something that is born from the inside to the outside. To our mind, this universe is built, is the bridge that connects us to our own actions and results. The more we invest in our mental evolution, the more we've developed a resilience that allows us to face any storm with greater clarity and balance. Many believe that the move is something of a distant, reserved for times of crisis, or for people with special abilities. However, the truth is that it is within the reach of each and every one of us. The decision to look within and to recognize that you will need to be adjusted. Each and every insight, every reflection, every conscious decision to build a knock-on effect, which over time, to transform all of reality. It's not a question of luck or is in an impossible situation, but for an active role of who is to decide, indeed, to take control of their own destiny. And it is from this understanding that we can begin to understand the impact of our everyday choices and the importance of maintaining an open-minded and attentive to the needs of our own truth. Because after all, the journey of transformation is not only about achieving a specific goal, but rather evolve as a person. He's about to find out what really matters to you and to connect with what makes us vibrate to the truth. In the process, we learn that it's the greatest revelation it is in the simplicity to realize that it all begins within ourselves. And when you make that connection, everything around you starts to become a way of life that once seemed impossible. Now, I want to invite you to think about a word that represents all of that strength. Endurance to the limits, to the belief that in the trap, the fear of taking risks. Because quite often, the biggest obstacle is our own resistance to accept the change. And when you recognize this, we can begin to build a new relationship with our potential, our emotions, and our decisions. And so, step by step, we're moving closer to a more authentic and powerful selves. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the true transformation doesn't just happen on the surface. It reveals itself in the little everyday decisions that we make, even when no one is looking. It is at this point that our strength manifests itself in a more subtle, almost invisible, but the impact is huge. Many a times, we find ourselves caught up in a web of thoughts we are convinced that we are capable of, for the world out there that is more powerful than the strength within. And that's exactly where the battle takes place in the mind, the heart, the very essence of what we believe about ourselves. The routines, the habits of deep-seated beliefs that we have inherited from the previous generation. All of this creates a sort of invisible wall that prevents the entry of new possibilities. From the moment we begin to understand this resistance, we can see it also in the gaps of the change. It begins on the inside. These holes may be small actions in the details of everyday life, which is apparently seem to be insignificant, but it carries a positive force for change. Each and every choice we make, every thought we have decided to enforce or challenge, it is a piece that makes up the great puzzle of our evolution. And the more aware we are of these pieces are, the easier it is to rewrite the table, adjusting it so that it reflects what we truly want, the things that twinkles in your heart for its authenticity. We know that fear is one of the greatest allies of the resistance, as he is in the safe zone, the comfort, the security of a routine, predictable, even though it is a routine makes us unhappy or trapped in cycles of auto-sabotage. But, at the same time, we realize that fear is also a window for you to enter. When we come to look at your roots, your origins, we can begin to understand what it really slows down. It may be an experience, a message that has been passed down in your early childhood, or the expectations that we place on ourselves that we were never able to accomplish. And once you understand these roots, we can begin to demystify them, to break down the limiting beliefs that have been imposed upon, and that, in fact, it has never been our truth. This is where a reflection is important. The real change is about having the courage, yes, but also a willingness to accept that discomfort is a part of the process. It's like opening a door into a dark corridor where the light has not yet reached fully, but one that promises to reveal a space of infinite possibilities. It is in the corridor we find our true potential, and often hidden beneath layers of fear, doubt, and insecurity. Each and every step that we take in the direction of self-discovery, it is a statement that we are ready for the challenge. These built-in limitations limitations, break through the old patterns, and to construct a new narrative about who we are and who we can become. Along the way, we discover that it is a sort of a guardian who attempts to protect us from something that, in their view, is distorted. This is very dangerous. But, in fact, it often prevents it from our hearts and minds will expand, and that our hearts are free. Then, learn how to talk to her. To understand her role, it's essential. This is not to wipe it out once and for all, but will be integrated in the process of growing up and recognizing the signs, and at the same time, go forward with courage. Thus, every decision is an opportunity to reaffirm your commitment to your own development and to contribute to a mindset of achievement and resilience. To make this work of self-discovery, we've begun to realize that the truth is more powerful than any of the narrative. Outside of the limits that we impose are often just illusions created by our own thoughts and words. Such an understanding is a kind of revolution in the interior, which has placed us at the center of the universe, capable of rewriting our history from a new point of view. And in that moment, life is starting to give the signals, clues, which give us an indication of the path to authenticity, courage, and freedom. These are details from everyday life, the little coincidences, unexpected encounters. They seem to say, you're on the right track, continue on to your journey of transformation, is only just beginning to gain momentum. And in the meantime, we can learn to trust in the process. The understanding of the deeper changes do not take place within an hour or so to the other one. But if you nurture with patience, dedication, and, above all, the faith are silent in their ability to overcome any obstacle. So, every step, every choice, every reaction, in the face of adversity, is shaping this new version of ourselves, that, in spite of all the difficulties, it remains to hope on, in the belief that the best is yet to come. And it is that hope which feeds into the cycle of growth. It becomes strength to strength, fear into courage, and the limitations on the possibilities endless. He comments that it makes no sense to me. I now want to go more in depth on this topic because a lot of times it's the true transformation happens on the details. It is not always possible to know right away. It's behind the scenes of our mind. The battle is more intense. It happens. And that is where our true strength is built up. When we begin to understand that each and every decision, however small they may seem to you, it's a critical piece in the puzzle of our evolution, and it starts to gain a whole new meaning. This habit of mind we cultivate every day, it is like a seed. If full of thoughts to positive, self-confident, and with a clear vision of what you want to achieve, it thrives in the face of a storm. But if we let it, the fear, the doubt, and procrastination take over, this is the same seed that is weakened, and the growth is compromised. It is at this point that a lot of people get lost, just in time to realize that real change requires a sustained effort and a constant awareness of the self. It's not enough to just wish for something, you need to commit to the journey, even when it seems difficult or full of obstacles. And it is at this point that the story becomes more interesting, because in practice, such a transformation requires a change of attitude, to look for his or her own limitations, to recognize the patterns in the fight, and, above all, to take responsibility for each step. This is one of the major revelations discovered in the course of time, that true freedom is the ability to decide who you want to be, no matter what the world or your own limiting beliefs that try to put on us. To dive a little bit deeper, we realize that our emotions play a crucial role in this process. They can be used as an indoor map, indicating that we are in line with what you believe in, or if you are in the sabotaging thoughts that are destructive. Feeling unmotivated or unsure, it is part of the loop, but the big question is, how do you respond in those moments? The answer to this lies in our willingness to shift the focus, seeking new opportunities and strengthen our resilience. After all, it's the true transformation, is not a straight line. It's made the ups and downs of falling, and the air, the silence, and explosion of ambition. It is in this back and forth that we've learned to trust in ourselves, to understand that each and every emotional scar is proof that we are growing. We are reinventing themselves. And, in the process, and the impact of the choices we make is of the way in the most self-evident. Every decision you make, whether it's big or small, has a direct influence on the course of human history. We found out that we're not stuck in the past or in the external environment, but we do have the power to shape your present according to our own will. And it is this power that lies in our ability to make informed decisions, set priorities, which are aligned with our values and dreams. When you can't do that, even in the face of adversity, challenging, and a new power rises from within, out of a force that propels you to move forward with more clarity and conviction. It's as if, once you understand this dynamic, with every obstacle as an opportunity in disguise, a chance to test our courage and strengthen our growth mindset. To learn more in this reflection, I realize that the key is not to authenticity. In being true to ourselves, to recognize our own emotions, our own shortcomings and potentials of sight. The transformation is genuine. It does not come from a subnet mask that is used in order to please others, but it's a connection that's honest with who we are of the truth and what we really want to achieve. This is a journey of self-discovery, is often a silent until a lonely one, but it is there that we find the greatest. They learn about what motivates us and what really matters to you. And then, when we understand that it all begins from the inside to the outside, and it all becomes becomes clear, the solutions are, and the opportunities, and the impact it can have on the world and in our own lives. Now, when you think about it, everything is even more clear that this development is not a destination, but a path is a continuous one, in a sort of dance between what we are and who we can become. Every step you take, every decision, every moment's reflection, it brings us closer to a stronger, more aware, and more in tune with our deepest values. And that connection between the inside and on the outside, it is the one that turns on a single day in one revolution of the staff, is able to have an impact in all aspects of our lives. And so, we are always looking for new signs and new strength and a deeper understanding of who we are and what we're capable of winning, even when the scenery looks like a challenging too. He comments that it makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the true transformation doesn't just happen on the surface of our actions or decisions that are visible to it that we take. It is born out of an understanding of the silent, almost intuitively, that it's all that we live in. No matter how difficult or challenging it may be, it has a hidden message, a lesson that a lot of times we may only find out when we allow ourselves to look beyond the obvious. It is at this point that the day-to-day becomes an extremely powerful, because it forces us to think about the impact of our choices on a more intimate ones, the ones who are shaping the interior in such a way that the world outside can't understand right away. When we begin to explore these behind the scenes to internal realize that true transformation is about having the courage to face the truth it hides in all of us. Many times, this is the truth, this is uncomfortable. It reveals the aspects that we would prefer to keep hidden, such as insecurities, fears, and limitations that we have been accumulating over time. But just to meet these points, we take the most important step to change. It's as if, when you open that Pandora's box, the emotional, we libertassimos, is a heavy weight that carregávamos without even realizing it, releasing a quiet strength as before he remained the same night, for fear of denial. This connection between the inside and outside tell us that our daily decisions, the ones that look like small, almost insignificant, have a direct impact on the quality of our evolution. Each choice, no matter how simple it may seem, it builds a bridge between who we are today and who we will become tomorrow. And at the same time, these need to act more like a mirror that reflects our state of mind, our consciousness, and our willingness to embrace change. When you understand that everything is connected, we begin to realize that the real revolution happens first in your mind, in the way we think about obstacles and opportunities. And it is in this search for a deeper understanding that many of the revelations that show up, often in unexpected ways. It can also be a conversation, a reading, an experience that, at the time, it would seem simple, but when you think about it, he reveals a truth is hidden. It will change our whole perspective. That's the beauty of the process, with little signs of the discoveries, built to create a chain of impacts that, in the future, will completely transform our view of the world and our relationship with the US. However, this journey is not linear, nor is free from obstructions. On the contrary, it requires perseverance, self-criticism, and a genuine desire to reinvent themselves. In the end, the true transformation is not a straight line. It's a trail full of twists and turns, detours, and out of moments of doubt. It is during this time that we learn to trust our intuition, to appreciate the silence in which we connect with our deeper self, and to realize that each challenge is an opportunity in disguise to grow. When you understand this dynamic, it all seems to make more sense for you, since you have discovered the power to change is within ourselves, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. And then, when you think about this movement has been built, we are even more aware of the behind the scenes of our history, the revelations of which are often hidden between the lines today life. The truth is that when you immerse yourself in the deep, you start to realize that it's the true transformation is not something that happens from the outside in, but from the inside to the outside. A change of mentality in which the influence of the shape is subtle yet definite, all that we are and all that we can be. It's like you open a door, revealing a whole new world full of opportunities, where every decision, every thought, every feeling, it turns out to be a chance to evolve, to connect with the essence of pure, of who we really are. He comments that, it makes no sense to me. If you've read this far, you may be perceiving as to each and every step of this journey, you can make a difference in your life, even if in a subtle way. It is in this connection that everything you win respect, and to know what you think about, until by the end it shows how much this topic is really touched you in some way. So, if you get this message, there was a noise in there, leave a comment saying something like, I'm with you till the end, or, it was for me. This will help you to enhance the exchange of power, and shows that it is the content that really makes no sense to those who are here from the other side of it. Oh, and if you like what you've seen so far, it gives you a enjoy the video. This is an easy way to build the connection that we're under construction. This makes it easier for us to continue bringing you the topics that are meaningful, and it will help you to see things in a new way. After all, what would we have shared here? This is done with care and intention to give you something useful to you. And there's a video right here on the side that complements all that we talked about today. You click on it and keeps me there, because there's always something new that you can add even more to this journey. I hope that this shift continues. You'll feel inspired to explore more and more, to reflect, and to look forward to with such a positive attitude. Thank you for being here until the end, and to be a part of this journey. Until the next video.